You look fantastic. I'm here to tell you three things. Number one, this is fascism. That's not a curse word, it has actual meaning. Two, fascism has momentum. It has direction. And it goes someplace that is very bad. And number three, it's the people who have the power. You just chanted, the Trump fascist regime must go. That's possible. We can do that. It's been done. It's been done in the last 2 or 3 months in South Korea. The biggest problem we face right now is the underestimation of what all of you and all of us and millions more could actually do. Fascism, number one. It is a different form of rule. It's not a curse word, although it is that. But it has content. It means that it is a repressive and oppressive form of rule beyond what has been the normal form of rule in this country, which is very oppressive and has demonized and degraded and enslaved people for 200 years. Now, I'm not asking anybody to agree with that. I'm a follower of the revolutionary leader Bob Avakian, and I think the roots of this fascism in America come from that genocide and slavery, and this is a continuation of the Confederacy that we're seeing in the Trump MAGA movement. But I want people who believe deeply in this country to be a part of this movement to drive out the fascist regime, because it's not untrue that this changes, this vitiates the form of rule that we've had before. And it will get there if we don't stop it together. Fascism means the end of the rule of law. It means the truth doesn't matter anymore. Fascism has momentum and direction. What does that mean? It means it's proceeding to lock down civil society. It means it is moving civil society. What is that? That's the universities. That's the ability of us to talk. That's the ability of communities to be together. Everything determined by the objectives of the fascist regime, which are white supremacy, patriarchy, the hatred of immigrants, otherwise known as xenophobia. It is, to be blunt about this, the core of this Trump MAGA movement is a form of Christian fascism. And they're moving very fast. I think you wouldn't be here if you didn't believe this already. But let's just think about this. A black van comes up to somebody's house. They're leaving for their religious beliefs. They're going for a fast, to break a fast, rather. Men come in sweatshirts looking like just good old bros, which is probably part of what they are. And all of a sudden, her pack is taken, her phone is taken, she's incarcerated, and she's shipped to Louisiana from Somerville, Massachusetts. It looks like a list of 800 people who are being denied their legal status in this country for opening their mouth and speaking the truth. And 800 people, I just got to tell you this, when I say it has momentum and direction, 800 people can become 8,000 people, can become 800,000 people. Do not think that cannot happen. It is happening right now. And you are being, I just have to say this, people, everything this strange tangerine orange creature down the block
orange turd
has said over years, he is actually doing. Listen to him and oppose him. When he says we have lots of homegrown people who should be shipped out of the country without due process, put in a concentration camp from which nobody disappears, right? Has he said that? Yes! Should we say, well, it's not me, it's these people who... No, Of course you shouldn't say that. And you should struggle very hard with every neighbor, relative, as hard as that can be, I know, as hard as that can be, to say, are you okay with that? Because if you're not okay, you have to act on that. And Refuse Fascism has put out a call to conscience and a call to act. A call to conscience. What do you believe? Are you believing that all people should be treated the same? Are you believing that we should take care of the environment and not to spoil it? Are you thinking that, yeah, I think it's real great that Trump's stomping all over the world with the danger of starting a world war when he says, and he said this, if we have nuclear weapons, why can't we use them? When he said, right over here, Lafayette Park, before going there, when people were protesting against police brutality, he said, well, can't we shoot them in the knees? Do you not think that he's preparing to do such things? All right. It has direction, it has momentum, and it has gotten far along. Now, to stop that momentum, we do have to stand up to every attack that comes down. But if we restrict ourselves to only standing up to the attacks, we are going to always be on the defensive, by definition and by the process that ensues. Think about this. We have to defend Gilmar Abrego Garcia. This is one of the most important fights in front of us right now. But the way to fight this, and I think this is very important, is to demand this Trump regime must go, to fight against the entire program. Because they do something we do. Well, now let's wait for the next appeals court. Now let's wait for the Supreme Court. Then the Supreme Court says, you can't do this, and Trump says, make me. You don't think that'll happen? Andrew Jackson said that to the Supreme Court 170 years ago. It is we, the people, who have the power. Now, how does that not become bravado, not just become a wish? How do we actually have that power? Where does it reside? It doesn't reside in Congress. It doesn't reside... Look, I want to say something first about 2026, because I know a lot of people, very dedicated people, are making phone calls trying to get ready for 2026. Here's the problem. We don't have that time. I said this has momentum. This is consolidating very fast. Trump said to CPAC, if you vote for me this time, you won't have to vote again. Oh, he just said that. You know Trump. He says, no, this is what he meant, and this is what they're doing. For those of you, and I see from some of the signs that you've read, Project 25, which begins, by the way, with a Christian Fascist Manifesto and then goes program by program by program for hundreds of pages. They are determined to take that away from you. And by I don't even know how much time we do have, actually, before they outlaw beautiful gatherings like we have today. Once again, give yourselves a hand on that. And this is something I mentioned that I follow the leader, Bob Avakian, and one of the things that he pointed out from a columnist in the Miami Times is there's really two countries now living within one border. One of them you can see on Fox News as their most liberal, as their most liberal outlet. But you can also go to all these podcasts and see that these are people who have a different idea of the truth, a different idea of justice, and who want to return America back to a new form of the Confederacy. But there's another country that's bigger, and you're seeing yourselves right here. But the problem is we haven't stood up and fought the way we need to fight. And I mean, to be very clear, fighting in a nonviolent way, organizing protests, speaking out, resisting in our institutions. Good trouble in that form, but good trouble in the streets. In South Korea, and this is also true of the Arab Spring, it's been true of other things, you get out in the street. Some people work, many of us work, hopefully for a while, but many of us work. Well, what are you doing after work? What if every day at 6 o'clock in every town square people protested for 2 hours? What if? What if at 6 o'clock the first 20 minutes was a cacophony of pots and pans? This has been done. I'm not some original thinker on this. It's been done. What's holding us back? We need to be organized, but what's holding us back is still a disbelief that this can happen, that they really would institute fascism. It really can't happen here. We need to have the courage of our convictions. Yes. This is very, very serious. We have to have courage. Yes, there will be sacrifice. And I want to say something about that because I didn't prepare remarks in part today because I was inundated with some messages this morning because 5501, which started as a spontaneous movement online, it was very good. They were part of calling the first protest. We spoke at it in New York. It was wonderful. And I'm sure there's tons of good people in it, but they posted something about, we've heard that there are going to be some violent protests this weekend. And they've named a couple protests, including this one. Did they call, our phone number's all over the place, at great risk, actually. But they could call. They could go on our website and see that our principles include nonviolence as one of the first ones. They could go look at a 9-year track record of having many demonstrations that are nonviolent. But let's put the best case on this. This is people who got afraid. Yeah. When you're afraid, you have to come together. You don't divide. We have to unite, not divide. We need a movement that includes people who believe deeply in this country and people who don't. It needs to include people who have been what they call them, Republicans in name. You know, people who stand against this. We have to have everybody who stands against this regime joining together when there are people who do. There will be people who are disturbed in some ways and try to provoke, let alone actually paid to do so. Then we point them out and we move them out of our crowds. And we stick together, we lock arms, we support each other. But fear-mongering to destroy this movement is not acceptable.
Thank you.
It is not acceptable. You know, I heard that they said to one of our members, yeah, but we called the protest first.
Who cares?
Who cares? Yes, but I thought this is important. I definitely didn't intend to come talk about this, but I've heard about it from too many people. So you called it first. Well, that's a stupid game to play. I'll tell you why it's dumb. Because I think the problem is not that there's 3 protests in D.C., but that there's not 300 protests against it. You know, and so, but we decided this would be a day of bringing food to the homeless, to the hungry. Of course, the hungry should be fed. They should be fed by the society as a whole, but it fallen to the churches and fallen to people who do some kind of social work, mutual aid, and more power to people who are working to feed people, to house them, to give them health care, to provide community health care. This is very important. That doesn't stand in opposition to fighting a fascist regime, because you know what? All of those services are being gutted by this very regime, and we're not going to stop it just by giving soup cans. But of course we should do that. They're not in contradiction. But then demonizing a protest is in contradiction to it. So I'm really thrilled, and I kind of thought this would happen, that people were going to come out in the face of that. And I think we should extend a hand, and we have tried to contact and have contacted all these organizations with very different principles, different religions, different believers, non-believers. All that's good. But we have to do this. We have the power if we exercise it. I wanted to circulate this. I wanted to hold it up. It says, in the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist America. We demand the Trump regime must go. And it ends with how we could actually do this. Millions in the streets not allowing business as usual when that business is cementing fascist rule. by shoving the vilest, degrading morality down our throats. Many voices and many bodies demanding the Trump fascist regime must go. With this, we can and we must create a political crisis in which the Trump regime cannot govern and implement their fascist program or even maintain their hold on power. This has happened. It has happened around the world. It has happened historically. Yes, it will require sacrifice, but you know what? Living in a fascist America is going to require a lot of sacrifice. Without any joy, without any feeling of liberation, without any feeling of equality, but sacrificing your very rights and your very souls. So with that, I just want to say one more time, and I want you to join me in saying this. In the name of humanity.
In the name of humanity.
We refuse to accept a fascist America. In the name of humanity. We refuse to accept a fascist America. The Trump fascist regime must go now.